Shane Dawson is a name that brings up a lot of strong feelings for a lot of people.
This is Sophie.
Thank you so much. I love you.
Shane is a YouTuber, writer, director, and actor. He has millions of fans all over the world, but when I hear the name Shane Dawson, I think of my friend. My friend who has been there for me when no one else was, who believed in me when no one else did. He's a loving and kind husband who takes care of the people around him. But how did I meet him? If I'm being honest, I can't remember the exact first time that we met, but I believe it was on the set of the haunted house party video, which was going to be an interactive choose your own destiny kind of video. The way that I got to be on the set of that was thanks to my internship at the time. In my previous video, I talked about how much I loved a YouTube channel called Black Box TV and how much it inspired me. Well, one day I was feeling brave and I ended up reaching out to Black Box TV through YouTube. I let them know how much I loved their videos and offered a helping hand if they ever needed it. I really wanted to be a part of what they were creating, but I just assumed they would never actually read my message, let alone message me back. But they did. I was so excited when they responded. I ended up speaking with the mastermind behind Black Box TV, a guy named Tony Valenzuela.
This is all Tony.
Tony, say hi. What's up, Chris?
He's amazing. He is the person who responded to my email, actually. When I messaged Black Box TV, I didn't think anyone would respond at all, but he did.
I ended up getting an interview, and it turns out that at the time, Black Box TV and the Philip DeFranco show were both operating under the same roof. So because of my messaging Black Box TV, I would end up meeting Philip DeFranco at the interview, who I was a huge fan of at the time. I was very nervous, but he could not have been more kind.
I love you, Chris.
So I ended up interning for Tony and Phil under DeFranco Incorporated. I learned so much through this internship that I believe lasted a couple of years, and I had a lot of fun doing it. Then one day, Tony offered me and a couple of other interns the chance to drive out to, I believe, Pomona, to film a haunted house video in collaboration with Shane Dawson. I was extremely excited. I was a huge fan of Shane Dawson. The video would be produced by Black Box TV, filmed by Joe Nation, Joey Anderton, and directed by Michael Gallagher, who is also known as Totally Sketch on YouTube. I do vividly remember though the first time that I saw Shane on set. He was in the living room of this house that we were filming in, and he was doing a Paris Hilton impression. For those that don't know, Shane used to play several different characters on his YouTube channel, one of my favorites being his Paris Hilton character.
Hey my little parasites. Today on the show I have a very special guest with me. She's famous for making a sex tape, having her own stupid reality show, and she's a total sellout trashy whore. Wait a minute, that sounds like me!
He did a very specific and very funny voice when he would play his Paris Hilton character. So when he did the voice in the living room, I heard it. I knew immediately who it was. I turned the corner and I saw Shane. But it turned out that a lot of very well-known YouTubers were going to be in this video. Not just Shane, but there was also Tay Zonday, Kristen Finley, Bree Essrig, Steve Green, Brittany Louise Taylor, iJustine, Richard Ryan, Jason Horton, and others. It's funny that Brittany Louise Taylor was one of the stars of the video because I actually used to intern for her before the DeFranco Incorporated internship. For those that don't know, Shane Dawson and Brittany Louise Taylor used to make videos together often. She was amazing and taught me so much about how YouTube works. But it was interesting to see both of my internships come together to film this thing with this YouTuber that I admired for so long. It was all of these things that I loved in my life coming together for one big and exciting video. I did end up speaking briefly with Shane while filming the haunted house video, and we sort of just kept in touch after that. Similar to Black Box TV, I ended up offering a helping hand to Shane if he ever needed it, and he also took me up on it. I was not a cameraman yet at the time, so I didn't film anything for him yet. But I ended up being a helping hand behind the scenes on a Christmas music video, a Taylor Swift parody video, and several others. I even got to be in front of the camera for a Kesha parody video that he did. I got to play a few different parts in this video. I got to play the part of a butler with a literal butt for a face. I also got to be one of a few gay fans of Kesha in a bounce house.
My fans are all drunk gay guys. Who cares if I have to realize?
And I also got to be a guy in a banana costume who was having an orgy in a bounce house with Kesha.
Big shirts hide my weird gut. Orgy in the castle jump.
Did I mention that the person playing Kesha is Shane's ex, who was his girlfriend at the time? So I was pretending to have sex with his girlfriend at the time in front of him. It was an interesting day to say the least. I also got to play the part of a guy in a wheelchair for his music video titled If you pay attention towards the end of the video, I did not realize that I was moving my legs while I was clapping along to the song. My character was supposed to be paralyzed from the waist down, so that was very embarrassing to watch in the final cut. I loved getting to be a small part of these videos. It was always so much fun. Every second that I was on set just confirmed to me that this was definitely what I wanted to do with the rest of my life. And Shane ended up becoming a real friend who always supported me. At some point I was making a silly web series titled The Mr. O Show with my good friend Steve-O. But not Steve-O from Jackass. His nickname just happened to be Steve-O. And Shane shouted out that show.
Now I'd like to thank the one person who is like huge. His name is Shane Dawson. I'd like to thank him for everything that he's done. You have been an amazing friend. Thank you. Keep watching. If you don't watch, well then I will hurt you.
I don't think that's how you thank people, Steve.
Chris, this is how I thank people.
He didn't have to do that, but it was so kind of him to do so, and it meant so much to us. At some point we decided to do a Halloween special of the Mr. O Show and reached out to Shane for ideas. He gave us the idea to have the killer of the Halloween special kill off each person using a different YouTube challenge from the time.
Don't you see what's happening here?
No, what?
He's killing us off one by one using different YouTube challenges.
If you look in the description of the video, Shane is even credited. I put concept by Shane Dawson because it really was his concept. For those that don't know, there were these viral challenge videos like the cinnamon challenge that seemingly everyone was trying at the time.
Alright, here you go.
Go. Oh, you. Yeah, there you go.
Swallow it.
So in the video, one person would be killed from attempting the cinnamon challenge. One person would be killed from doing the ice bucket challenge. One person would die from the salt and ice challenge, so on and so forth. I honestly miss making the Mr. O Show so much. I really miss my friend Steve-O. If you haven't seen that show yet, please check it out. I'll leave a link in the description bar below. Later on, Shane reached out to me and told me that he was making his first ever feature film. I don't think I had ever felt that happy and proud for someone in my life. I knew that he had dreamed of directing a movie for a very long time. So to hear that his dreams were literally coming true was so cool to hear. I was so happy for him. He then invited my friend at the time and myself to help pick out some songs for the movie. I was so proud for my first ever involvement in a feature film to be one that Shane was making. Even though my involvement was minuscule, it was still very exciting for me. He then invited me to go to the premiere of his movie.
Guys, I love Shane. The movie's really awesome. Please go see it. It's so funny.
Shane went on to make these docu-series on YouTube that got an insane amount of attention. I went on to become a videographer and barely make minimum wage. You know, same but different. But then I ended up hitting a point in my career where truthfully, it felt like all hope was lost. I graduated from film school, but I was not making enough money as a videographer to pay for my rent and my apartment. I was getting by on cup of noodles and dollar menu fast food items because that's all I could afford. I was slowly building up a clientele, but it was happening so slowly and I just felt completely defeated. It also doesn't help that Los Angeles is an absurdly expensive place to live. I started working any job I could find to get by, including a few retail jobs on top of my videography job. At one point when videography work became unbearably slow, but I finally felt like I had some skill as a videographer, I reached out to Shane and asked if he happened to need a cameraman or an editor. He ended up replying saying that he did not need that at the time. But he said that his now husband Ryland was looking for a new cameraman at the time. I was so excited to potentially not only have some work coming up, but to maybe have some work coming up that would maybe involve Shane again, who was always my favorite person to create stuff with. The first video that I ended up filming for Ryland was a shed makeover video. As dramatic as it may sound, that was the first day that I felt an ounce of hope and happiness in a very long time. I didn't know what was going to come of this, but I really hoped that we would get to keep working together. I then quickly fell in love with Ryland because how could you not? He's the sweetest, most funny, most charming, most kind, most wonderful human. Shortly after that, Ryland told me that he was starting a podcast called The Sip and that he wanted me to film it. From that podcast, I got to meet Lizzie Gordon, who is an amazing person and would end up becoming the reason that I would make a return to YouTube. Then later on, Shane ended up reaching out to me telling me that he is now starting a new podcast. That was exciting enough for me. Just as a fan, I couldn't wait to see a new podcast from him. But then he asked me to film the podcast, which I was ecstatic about. And as many of you now know, when I went to film the first episode of the podcast, he threw out the idea of putting a camera on me, which I was not expecting. And in my mind, I thought, no, that's okay. We don't have to do that. Don't get me wrong, it was really exciting, but I'm just an anxiety-ridden person, so the idea was just terrifying to me. But he explained that he would be referencing me and speaking to me off camera anyway, so he might as well put a camera on me, which made sense. I kind of assumed it would be a thing where you would once in a blue moon see a 2-second reaction to me and that's it. But as it turned out, I would end up becoming a host of the show. It's a little difficult for me to watch the first episode now because I was so unbelievably nervous to be on camera with Shane, his husband, and his brother. Those are 3 incredibly funny and talented individuals that I truthfully didn't feel worthy of being on a podcast with. It still doesn't feel real to me. I can't believe that this is now my life. I have been suffering from a lot of imposter syndrome since the podcast started, but the only way that I can make sense of any of this is that I have been working so hard at my job for so long. I have been so broke and struggled for so long. And I don't just mean struggling financially, but I had several extremely difficult and traumatic things happen in my life at the same time. There was a point where I, honest to God, almost gave up on everything, where I couldn't imagine my career or frankly my life getting any better. But then these huge blessings also started happening, and many of them are thanks to Shane.
You had a pretty serious family situation happen.
Like a little under 2 years ago, my dad had a heart attack.
Right.
And that was really traumatizing. I was just starting to get over some of these things, and now my dad had a stroke. I don't know what my life looks like going forward now. I'm very scared.
Well, we're here, and I'm so sorry, and we've all been praying really hard for your dad. It's horrible. I can't imagine. But you're really strong. I can't believe you're here, and I can't believe you're in a Scooby-Doo outfit. There's a lot.
If it weren't for Shane creating content to begin with, I wouldn't have ever believed that I had a chance of making it in any way in the entertainment industry. And I would have never pursued my dreams. If it weren't for Shane, I would have never found a passion for making YouTube videos. If it weren't for Shane, I wouldn't have my 2 favorite jobs working for the SIP and the Shane Dawson podcast. If it weren't for Shane, I would have never met Rylan, Lizzie, Jared, Sandy, Morgan, Vicky, Bruce, Grandma Janice, and all of these people who have changed my life in such a positive way, who have been so loving and so welcoming to me. I am so grateful to have met Shane Dawson. Thank you for everything, Shane.